Hello, I'm making a quick video here per the request of my winemaking consultant to demonstrate how to use a very small scale double salting filter that we built by procuring parts from the local hardware store and online and reducing the TA in our wine. In previous years, I did a number of different things to try to manage TA, including using different yeasts to reduce TA, including additives post-fermentation to reduce TA and malolactic. Still never got to the lower level of TA that I was looking for in my red and white wines. So this year so you can see here we have a 10-inch filter housing with a pressure gauge on front that's standing up on the table, and there's a brand new filter in there. I found that the 5-micron filters work fine. This is a 75-micron filter. There's some of these filters in these clear 10-inch housings that look like a ball of string. Those filters do not work. They have to be more of a solid filter, the ones that look like a paint roller. But you can see that we have 3 buckets here. One is going to have our juice, that we have our filtering media that we're going to body feed in. The middle bucket is for the pre-coat of the filter, so I put about 3/4 of a gallon of water in there and 1 cup of filtering pre-coat media. We'll run that first, and then we'll switch to the juice bucket, and we put about 2 cups of the filtering media, filtering fibers per 3 gallons. I try to run it 3-gallon increments because that's about what this little 10-inch housing can handle before it's full. And then our bucket all the way on the end there is going to be the bucket that collects the filtered juice that we're going to reintroduce back into the other juice before we start ferment. And I have 2 bags over here. I have a 60-pound bag of filtering media, and then I have a smaller 5-pound bag of pre-coat that I like to use. All right, so as I mentioned before, we have our center bucket here, which is the pre-coat mix bucket. It's nice to have some type of ladle at the handle. This is about 1 cup of the pre-coat media. I'm just going to put it in there and mix it up. I'll end up mixing that a bit more when I run it. We have the intake hose that's going to go to the pump, into the housing, and then it's actually going to run back into this bucket when we start. But also I want to have my juice ready. So I'm going to put 2 cups, and I already added 1 in there, but we're going to put a 2nd cup of the body feed filter media in here. And we'll end up stirring that continuously as we run. But let's get this party started, and we'll try to... All right, so you can see we're running, and the filter housing is actually filling up with the pre-coat, and we're going to let that get to the top. There's no water coming out of the output, no filtered water. This is water in the pre-coat media. Nothing coming out yet. We're going to wait till that actually starts to flow out, and that'll know that our filter housing is full. There we go. It's starting to flow out. You can see our pressure is still at 0. And this is the point that we're going to switch over to start filtering the juice. The liquid coming out here is generally clear, but in this scenario, I just cover the hose with my finger and transfer it into the juice bucket. And now look at that. You can see in the filter housing, you can see that juice start to come in and replace what was the pre-coat water. And we're watching now for the color to change in the output. And that's when we'll know to switch it into our collection bucket for the juice. And we're still at 0 PSI on a brand new filter. All right, I'm starting to see color change, so I'm going to move that into our capturing bucket for the filtered juice. And all the while, I'm just gently stirring the juice bucket to keep the body feed filter media suspended in the juice. And then we pretty much just do that and watch the pressure gauge. You have to know the pressure that your pump can take. See now, look at it starting to raise. This particular pump actually broke 2 pumps this year doing this. I filtered about 120 gallons so far this year. But this pump is my last pump, and it's my smallest pump. And it can handle about 10 PSI. So we're gonna shut this off if it gets above 10 PSI. Now theoretically, I should be able to run 3 gallons here before it does that. but it seems to be climbing quite quickly. So it's telling me maybe I don't have enough filter media in the body feed. Maybe I didn't add enough. But here, we're climbing above 10 psi. If I keep running it, it's gonna break this pump, so I'm gonna shut it down. All right, so here is the filter and the filter housing after a run. A really successful run. This would be much thicker, but this will still illustrate the point. I can pull that guy out, and I like to have another bucket next to me. In this case, I'm using a box, but you can actually just peel off. That's the actual fiber, the filter media that we've been working with, and the crystals from the wine that we're filtering out, the double salt crystals. But you can just peel that junk off and reuse this filter. You need some type of trash receptacle in doing this to put all your paper towels in and all your filter media. It's best to use a bucket, but I just grabbed a box. So, all right. The housing also has, and this is why you also need paper towels, but the housing is also that's juice in there with filter media and crystals, so we can refilter that. So instead of throwing that away, we're just gonna pour that right back into our juice bucket that we're filtering from. We have an empty housing. It's hard to do this with one hand, but we are going to put back in the filter and screw this in and get ready for a second run. And I'll show you that in a second. All right, so let's try to show you a good run one more time. So we're in the filter media coating bucket, right? Every time you recoat the filter, you have to add one more cup into here. Unlike the juice, I only added 2 cups to that 3 gallons. I'm not gonna add any more until that's fully done and I add fresh juice that doesn't have any media in it. But we're here in this bucket. We're starting a new filter that's empty. So I added another cup. Click it on, stir. Got the housing filling up. We're gonna wait till the output hose is flowing. Right now it's not flowing, right? Look at your pressure gauge, we're at about 1. And the filter's still usable that's in there. Here we go. We have stuff coming out. I'm just gonna let it run for a minute. Now I'm gonna, again, grab the input hose. You can see the color of that media changing. You want to stir the juice bucket. That's the body feeding part. That's your manually body feeding. All right, and then we watch the output, watch it to change color, and we'll move it into the filtered juice bucket. So we're capturing that filtered juice. There we go. All right, so we got a good run kicked off. We're still at like 1 psi. Listen to the sound of the pump. That tells you if it's different things, if it's getting clogged or not. But I'm just gently body stirring this 3 gallons. On a really good run, I can do all of that and run 3 gallons. That's a good run. When you're really focusing and things are going right, that's a good run with the setup. I've had to redo this filter 3 times now to get these 3 gallons. It's probably because I'm trying to hold a phone at the same time. So you can see, look at that. You can see that PSI start to creep up. You just have to know the PSI your pump can handle. Unfortunately, the only way to really know that is by breaking one. But in this case, I don't run this pump at over 10 PSI. It's a small pump, it's a little pump. It's kind of a workhorse pump, but I don't run it over 10 PSI. So when I see that get up to 10, I stop. This is what the juice looks like on the other end. So here's the pre. See how it looks like a milkshake? Here's the post. It's a lot more clear. The other thing that you can watch for is when you start to get to the end, you can see the amount of flow that your pump can do. So you just watch when it's flowing well. That's the amount of output that it can do. So if it starts getting half of that, even a quarter down to 25%, you know that your filter is starting to get clogged. So that's running at about what I can do, and still not, 3 or 4 psi. So it's doing good. So when I get down to the end of these 3 gallons on this very small double salting, I just try to position the hose. There we go. We lost our input for a second there. It'll be interesting to see if the media fell out. The filter media fell out, but it did not. So we're still running. Oh, see the tip of that hose is getting above the water there. So it's causing that. So I'll just hold it down and tilt the bucket in the direction that that hose is in, and we'll try to run the rest of this. We're still not up at my 10 psi where I would stop running this particular pump. And I still have stuff flowing, so that's good. Okay, let's just recap some of the most important things to make this very, very small scale double salt filtering work. Again, we use a pre-coat bucket, 3/4 gallon of water, 1 cup of your pre-filter coat for each time that you fill up that housing. And then I generally work in 3-gallon batches, which we add 2 cups of the filter, body feed filter to that. It's really important when you add the calcium carbonate to the juice that you let it sit for 20 minutes so that all of those crystals and all the extra calcium carbonate sink to the bottom. You're never going to be able to filter out the sludgy crystals with a device like this. You're not going to be able to run it all. You're going to lose some of it. Maybe in 3 gallons per 20 gallons, you're going to lose. Don't even try to filter it. So let that stuff settle and rack off the top into your 3-gallon processing bucket, so you just don't clog your filter up with all of that junk. The filters, do not use the 10-inch ones that look like a ball of yarn. Do use the 5 micron to 75 micron ones that look like a paint roller. You can use them multiple times. When they're brand new, they start out at 0 psi. Maybe past their usable life, they're starting out at 5 psi. Then it's time to switch the filter. But you can probably run 20 gallons on 4 or 5 different filters depending on the media that you use. Do definitely get different types of media and try different types of media, pre-coat versus body feed. Use a finer one for pre-coat, a longer, coarser fiber for body feed. You'll know that you're having success when you can fill that whole housing up without going above your pressure threshold for your pump, right? Even to the point where it's tough to pull out that filter. I've had to use like end of a metal bottle brush to kind of scrape some out to pull out the filter when I've had really good runs because it clogs it up. And you'd also know by looking at the juice that comes out, there shouldn't be any creamy white type crystal stuff in the bottom of your juice. It should be clear juice, right? Look at your juice. Those would be the 2 indicators that you're using. Very, very good pre-coat and body feed combinations on the filter media. Paper towels, it gets messy. This is really messy. Pumps, the 2 diaphragm pumps that I use broke within 2 gallons. It was kind of disgusting, really. I've had to use an impeller pump, a smaller impeller pump to get it to work. Have extra impellers, have extra pumps, and then know your math. If you don't add enough calcium carbonate, if you undercut the calcium carbonate, you will not be successful in this. You have to put enough of that in there. Know your math, work with your consultant, read your books. Know your math with the amount of juice, double salting that you're adding back into your main fermenter so that you actually do bring down your tea to the level that you want. You don't want to go through all this work and then not get the results and have wine that tastes tart. Let's not do that. So good luck. It's messy. I'm already working on a bigger system for next year, a plate type system with mud plates in there that can do more volume, because this is frankly pretty tedious to run 30 gallons through this little setup. It's, you're spending 2, 3, 4 hours out in wherever you're making wine doing this, and that's after sometimes a full day of picking and then crushing and destemming and all the chemistry that comes with making good wine and all the processing into fermenters. So this is just added on top of that. So the higher volume you can do, the better, but this is definitely a feasible setup for, you know, I was doing 20, 30 gallons a day with this setup. Stepped it up a notch and we're doing double salting.